Hi, I'm Angelo Kinicki. Purpose of this video is to talk to you about how we use self-assessments in the Kinicki Fugate OB product. Well, first off, let me tell you we have 58 of them, which is much larger than most other products out there. Why did we include them? Really, that's simple, is because we wanted to create interest to the students and give them some information that they would personally find valuable. And one more thing I can tell you from the millennials that I'm teaching, they love to get feedback. So we want the students to get feedback about OB-related topics that they'll find interesting and valuable. Where do they come from? All of our self-assessments are research-based. What that means is when we were looking for particular ones, we would go into the research literature and find one that was used and or had been validated. So these are not ad hoc instruments. They're all things that are published in the literature. Topics for our assessments. Of course, when we would write a particular chapter, we would have a concept or a topic in mind. If we could find an assessment for it, we would use it. In other cases, for particular topics, because we are using research-based assessments, we might not always find what we would prefer, but we would find an assessment related to the topic that had some evidence to support its validity. Now, the key thing to me about using assessments or having them in books is not that we have them. I think just about every OB book has them. I think the differentiator is how they're integrated. So let me tell you how other books do this integration. And by integration, I mean how is the assessment woven into or used by the student when they're reading the books. Now, most books, what they do is they might have an assessment at the end of the chapter. Other publishers, they have a depository, if you will, where they have a big list of assessments and students go to it. One of the big OB books does something like this. They put an assessment in the front of the chapter and sprinkle a couple more in each chapter, but there's not a whole lot of pre-selling or discussion questions to go with them. The assessments are more or less dropped into the chapter. Our view is very different. We think the value of assessments is getting students to take them to learn about themselves that can help them to grow and develop professionally and personally. So the first thing we do with every assessment in our book is we want to create the interest in the student's mind that it's worth the time to take it. So before every assessment is a short paragraph that sells the value of it. Let me give you an example. Let's take the issue of person, culture, fit. We all know from research that when people feel they fit in an organization, they're happier and they're more productive. Here's how I might sell that. So we'd be talking about person, culture, fit in the book, and then we'd write something that goes like this. So what are your values? Do you think you fit in your core organization? Does your organization support the things that are important to you? If you'd like to answer these questions, go to self-assessment, whatever it may be. Now, all of our assessments are contained on Connect. This is another good thing when it comes to implementation, because on Connect, which is a digital product from McGraw-Hill, the students can take it. You as the instructor can know whether or not the student took it. So if you want to assign these things, you can have some evidence that they did do it without you having to really police it. So it's on Connect. You can know whether they've taken it, and I think most importantly, because it's on Connect, there's going to be multiple choice questions that the students can take after they read their feedback that you actually could use for a gradable assignment or just use for their own development. One last point to make about self-assessments. Mel and I are big believers in personal development. So what we do in our classrooms is we use the assessments and then we have students do a personal development plan. I am willing to put on the website for our book the format and instructions that I use personally to create personal development plans, and you can use that to your heart's delight. My students love it. It's a good way to get them to think about skill development, which after all is why we're doing these assessments in the first place.